All right, hey guys, how's it going? So this is my second video of the week, the book of the week video. And today I want to talk to you. I just finished reading this great, amazing book. I want to talk to you about this book, The Power of, I don't know if you can see it, The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business. And it's written by Charles Duhigg. I can't really pronounce his name. I'm really bad at pronouncing these guys' names. But it's an amazing book. It's really one of the best books I've really read. And the main reason I read these books is because they're New York bestsellers, they're international bestsellers. So I always go into, the Amazon category or on the internet, go to Google and search, what is the best-selling top 10 books in self-help or self-development. And I go and read these books. And the reason they're top 10 and they're best-selling is because they're just amazing. They have amazing content and so much value and unique insight and research that will really sometimes can transform your life, can help you overall. And this is one of the books that really I think will massively accelerate my journey to success, like accelerate my performance in life and work in general. So what is this book? What is this book about? Basically, it talks about the power of habits. It talks about mainly breaks down how habits are formed. It goes to the core. It digs deep. It digs deep into how habits actually form, what parts of the brain responsible for creation of habits, and how we can actually rewire these bad habits that we have and replace them with good ones. So reading this book, you'll get amazing insights on, how you can change bad habits. For example, if you're a procrastinator, if you're always, or if you're always cheating on your diet, or if you want to lose some fat and you find it hard to sort of control your diet, or maybe you drink occasionally, or maybe not occasionally, and you want to reduce that habit of drinking, then reading that book is going to really be helpful to just show you how these habits form. How do you actually perform? How do you go about getting into these routines and these activities that you kind of do unconsciously, and how you can actually change them. And it doesn't have to be extreme like drugs and weight. It can be something like sorry, the camera is held like this. It can be it can be like nail biting. It can be brushing your teeth. It can be the smallest of habits, right? And in the book, he talks about how he draws examples. He draws from examples, personal examples of how people change their habits in terms of alcoholism, drug abuse, nail biting, whatever, all the habits in the book, he talks about them. And then the second chapter, which is really interesting to me, I found, is how habits are engraved in organizations and companies, and how companies and organizations, like top ones, have used that power of habit creations and consumer behavior psychology to actually leverage a lot, to leverage a lot of that sort of brain power, a lot of that science and research into their own benefit to like massively increase their sales, massively improve their performance, and just put them, years ahead of the competition. Not years, but put them really ahead of the competition. So that's a really interesting chapter. But I'm not going to go through every single chapter and everything I learned, but I'm going to tell you just the summary notes of the exact thing that you really, the gist of the book, right? And that is basically how habits work, how habits form. So basically it describes the habit loop, or how habits work or form in sort of a cycle. And that cycle is made of, the way he describes it is it's made of three sort of elements. So the first element is cue, or also known as a trigger. So the cue or the trigger of the habit, and then you have, I'm gonna give you an example. I'm just gonna go through the process first and then give you an example afterwards. The second one is the routine. So you have the cue first, then you have the routine that you do after, when a trigger is there, and then you have the reward, what you get from the habit, right? So let's give an example. For example, if you are, let's say, for nail biting, for example, someone who just bites his nail unconsciously, not knowing why. So a cue can be something like, for example, I struggle with this actually, and I'm trying to kick out this habit of biting my nails unconsciously. And it's the cue for me sometimes is just that sometimes I'm stressed or anxious. I'm just working over stress sometimes, and I sort of unconsciously just start biting my nails, right? Another cue can be that I'm just kind of like feeling the edges of my nail, and I feel like some sort of like a bit hanging out and I want to get rid of it, just to make sure that everything is complete and everything looks neat, and that can be a trigger. That can be the cue. So that can trigger the routine. Now the routine obviously is biting my nails, right? So that's the routine, and then the reward I get from it is sort of like a relief of anxiety, or sort of a completion. Like, oh, I got rid of all these small bits of nail hanging out, or I've kind of relieved my sort of stress or anxiety that I had, that cue that triggered it. So that's kind of that's an example. Another example can be, for example, when cheating on your diets. So, example, you have a diet and you kind of keep cheating and keep eating junk food that you're not supposed to eat or that you don't want to eat, but you kind of you kind of fall into that trap. And a cue can be anxiety, it can be emotional, it can be depression, it can be something like feeling an emotional void, just a bit of stress. And I sometimes sometimes struggle with that. I've struggled with it. Now I'm kicking out that old habit, especially when I'm cutting down, like because I'm into bodybuilding. I go into bulking and cutting phases, and the cutting phase is actually very difficult in terms of diet. In terms of gym, is quite good. It's quite fun in the gym. The diet is actually the hard part, because you reduce your calories to a point below your maintenance, and my body is like still working hard, so it's working at a higher efficiency, at a higher performance than an average body, but eating less than average body. So it's sort of hard to stay eating low calories. So sometimes I cheat on my diet, but that's how it works. Basically, you get a sort of like a sometimes, for people who really have problems with this, in terms of trying to lose weight, but they can't, is they have this sort of like emotional anxiety, stress, whatever it is, and because of that, they just get on, they eat junk, whatever they can eat there, and that's the routine they get into. So the cue is the anxiety, the stress, the emotional sort of void, and then the routine is basically eating, and the reward they get from it is a stress of relief. That happened, example, with me when I was cutting. Okay, I do cheat on my meals, and after I cheat, it's kind of like it was like a relief of anxiety, relief of stress, but it's only temporary, only for a bit. That's why the habit is really dangerous, and it can evolve into like really very bad habits. So that's the reward for it. And then he talks about, so these are the three elements, the three most elements. And now I'm going to talk about how you can actually change these bad habits into good ones, how you can install new good habits to replace old ones. But before that, he also talks about a fourth element which is involved in habit formation, and that is craving. He says the craving is what really drives the whole habit loop. It's really what drives the whole habit to occur, and it's the craving usually is the craving for reward. So, for example, for weight loss, is the craving for that stress relief, is that craving for that emotional relief, is that craving for that numbness, right? Nail biting, the same thing, is that sort of craving for the stress relief, or the craving for the completion of getting rid of all these bits of nail pieces on my fingers, right, on my nails. And it's that sort of craving. For alcoholics, it's the same thing. It's like the craving for, to be emotionally numb, to not be depressed or to not face reality, right? And that's basically it. It's the craving. And I'm talking about really depressive examples, but, it can be small habits like, brushing your teeth. He talks about brushing the teeth. The craving can be for that sort of like minty sort of taste that you get, or freshness that you get after you brush your teeth. So that can be an example of a craving. So that's the fourth element. And then in the last, with some of the last chapters that he talks about, he really touches on a fifth element. He doesn't call it a fifth element, but I'm gonna say it's a fifth element. And I think that's the most important one, is belief and self-belief. And you can know about the habit loop. I'll tell you now more about how to change the habits, and you can know how to change them and everything. But that knowledge on its own is not going to really help you to change any bad habits. It's going to help you, like, it's not going to fully, like, it will aid you so much. But there's a last element that needs to be there, and that's belief. And that, belief in oneself, and that's really the most important element. That, for me, I think that's the most important element. He doesn't emphasize on it that much, but I think that's really what sets the difference apart from people who actually overcome their drug history, or drug problems, or alcoholism problems, or these really bad habits, and people who can't. And it's that self-belief that they can do it, that they can go through the process, that they can replace these bad habits with good habits, and they can pull it off. It's as simple as that. It's just having that complete self-belief, really what completes that circle, circle of changing a habit, right? So so self-belief, I wouldn't say it's a fifth element. I think that's a necessary element in changing bad habits. But The habit itself is, we talked about three elements. It's a cue, routine, reward, and they have the craving. So that's the habit. Belief is is a separate, I would say, a separate thing. Is about, belief is the belief to change the habit. So if you want to change the bad habits into good ones, then you have to have that self-belief. But the habit itself, we talked about the process. Now let me talk about how he said to tackle this, how you can change, or not change, how you can replace bad habits with good ones. Because he said it's very difficult to change. You can't change habits. You can't cancel or delete a habit. That's not possible. Or maybe it is possible, but it's really difficult. An easy way to do that, though, is to actually replace bad habits. So an easy way would be to replace bad habits with good ones. And the way to do this, and the easiest way to do this, is that we talked about the cue, we talked about the reward, and it's basically, and the routine. And what changing habits what changing habits should be like is basically, you can use the same old trigger or cue and the same reward, but what you change is the routine. So, for example, if you are, let's say, struggling with weight loss, and the trigger is some sort of anxiety, some sort of stress, emotional void, etc., etc., etc. Now that's the cue, that's the trigger. Now the routine is to actually, eat that piece of cake, right? So in order to change that bad habit, you should replace that routine of eating a piece of cake with something else. Let's say instead of eating a piece of cake, let's say drink a cup of coffee, right? And see if you get the same rewards, right? If you don't get the same rewards, then do something else, like go for a run, right? And after you go for a run, see if you get the same rewards. The rewards can be the same as as getting into the bad routines. So, for example, if you're eating a piece of cake and you kind of feel emotionally, and now you're emotionally satisfied, you kind of like emotionally numb, then try go for a walk. Maybe that will give you that the same sort of satisfaction, the same sort of reward that you get from these bad habits. And once you find a good habit that you can replace the old one with, that will give you the same sort of reward, then you're set, because you have the old cue in place, you have the old reward in place. All you did is you changed the routine. Is that bridge between the cue and the reward. So once you're able to find that good habit to replace the bad one, the good routine to replace the bad routine, then you can get the same rewards from it, and it will just give you the same results. So you're going to get the same rewards, but you get better results, obviously, because now you're doing something good and not something bad, something good for your health, at least in that case, in that example. And it's the same thing. So that's, for example, that's exactly how it works. So, for example, if you have a problem, for example, for me, for example, nail biting, now I can break it down. Now I know when I bite my nails, whatever, maybe it's stress, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's that sense of like, oh, I want to get rid of all these small bits of pieces. And now I can change the routine. Instead of biting my nails, maybe it can be something else, like tapping my fingers, against the wall, or tapping my fingers on the laptop, or doing something crazy, right? Doing some other routine, something else that can maybe replace that, a better routine, replace the bad one, and get the same rewards, which is basically just relief of stress, right? And and that's basically it. That's how you kind of break down the habits from that's how we can change the habits. Basically, you change the routine in between. That's what you need to do. Is you don't need to change the whole thing. You don't need to change the whole cycle. You can keep the old cues and old rewards. All you have to do is change the routine in between, and then you'll be set. And the last element in changing your habit is belief. It's having self-belief that you can change it, that you can become better, that you can overcome it, and just having that belief and free will and control over yourself. That's what's going to make the difference. That's what differentiates the people who can actually change and the people who can't change. It's that 100% self-belief and belief in willpower, and strength and will, and control over someone's emotion, control over someone's life, having just believe that you have full control over yourself. So that's the gist of it, how habits form. And he applies this sort of model to different examples, personal examples for like personal habits, like weight loss, eating, etc., toothbrush. And then he goes further into applying these examples to organizations, and how organizations have changed their whole performance, and they've improved their performance, their sales, by just tackling that sort of knowledge about knowing how to change habits. And he draws a really amazing example that he draws from is, he also talks about the ripple effect. I'm not going to really go into details, but the ripple effect basically says that if you have an organization that's behaving or that's doing badly, there must be one habit that is really instilled in the organizational structure that is really bad. And once you change that one bad habit, it has a sort of a ripple effect on every other habit in the organization, and therefore it increases the overall performance. So, for example, and then he draws an example to compare this with. So, for example, when you go to the gym, or when you start going to the gym, and after a gym workout, you don't want to really go and eat McDonald's. You know, you feel healthy, so you come back. You know, you eat something healthy, and that's the sort of ripple effect. Is that you go to the gym, and you know, it kind of like just the habit of going to the gym kind of it touches or affects other habits, like your eating habits. Instead of eating junk, now you're eating healthy food, and that's because you went to the gym. And now because you're eating healthy food, you're working harder, or you're more focused on your work. And because you're more focused on your work, you're getting more results. And because you're getting more results, you're getting higher performance. And because of higher performance, you're getting better income. And then he basically reflects that same examples to organizations, where he changes just one small habit, can have a big ripple effect across the whole organizational structure, and improve their overall performance in other different areas, in making profit, and etc., etc., etc. So it's just an amazing book. He draws from a lot of examples, packed with examples. Again, it's not just only hypothesis; it's full and packed with like amazing examples. And each example just helps you to understand the model better and better and better. And if you read the book, I've read it once. I'm probably going to read it twice. Sometime later, maybe a month, 2 months from now, and then it internalizes much more, because these concepts are just so amazing that that sometimes you absorb them the first time and read them the second time, and you kind of have a better, deeper understanding of them. So it's an amazing book. I really highly recommend it. So it's called what is it called? The Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business. Search it on Google, you can find it. It's the best-selling book. And give it a go, give it a read, and tell me what you think. Post it in the comments below if you have a question. If you have a question to me about the book, or if you've read it and you want to share something, or share an insight, a really exciting insight, something interesting, then share it in the comments below. If you like this video, then click the like button. If you like it so much that you want to share it, then share it on social media. And I'll see you in the next video, next video of the week. All right. And for now, take care, and see you soon.